Shenyang City's Regional University Hospital's emergency room. It was the only place which was open at 6:30 p.m. in the evening. Paramedics rushed Lee Myung, the third team leader of the public security, to the emergency room. As his bleeding was too severe, the ambulance took urgent measures to stop hemostasis and did a blood transfusion. However, despite being in pain, Lee Myung didn't pass out or tremble. Phew! Throughout the ambulance ride, he was confused. A man who didn't seem like the kind to step back suddenly backed out. Like, something was happening. Ta-ta! The on-call surgeon and nurses, who had been contacted by the paramedics, rushed into the room. The surgeon who came in mumbled, "TCH. This is the third time already." Before Lee Myung was brought in, 2 officers were brought here. And this man was literally the third patient from the Public Security Bureau. "Please move him this way." The surgeon guided the paramedics to an empty bed. At his signal, the paramedics and the nurses lifted the pedestal of the stretcher and moved the man. 1, 2. Thud. Look. They moved as carefully as possible, but the wounds still hurt. Lee Myung was close to crying. Damn it. I wanted it to turn into a dream, for me to meet that crazy ass. Ha. Still, this was better than dying. The surgeon on duty cut off his shirt and pants with medical scissors. "You did a great job stopping the bleeding." The surgeon praised the paramedic's skills. The surgeon who removed the bandages and gauzes from the wounds said to the nurse, "Prepare antibiotics." "Yes, sir." When the bandages were removed, Lee Myung clenched his teeth, trying not to scream. It was the parts where the bullets penetrated. There was no way that it didn't hurt. The surgeon, who was wiping off the dried blood with a sterile gauze, examined the wound on his shoulder and shook his head as he looked at the thigh. Ah! He tried pressing the area. Lee Myung lifted his upper body from the bed with wide eyes. He looked at the doctor who was examining the area. "Is it serious?" The mobile striker who followed Lee Myung in the ambulance asked with concern. The surgeon answered with a curious expression. "Did you say that he got hit by a sniper rifle?" "Yes. He's a leader of the Public Security Bureau, right? And this is definitely amazing. Really amazing." "Sorry?" Lee Myung, who laid down, and even the mobile striker were puzzled. The surgeon put it in layman's terms. "Well, taking a closer look, one can see that the bullet pierced cleanly. The shoulder and the thigh, the bullet went through flesh and no bones." The surgeon pressed the thigh to check the damage to the bone. "After the test, I will follow our procedures and check for any infection near the wounds. You will have to receive treatment, but you can be discharged in about a week. It's better to start with desk work." At the words of the surgeon, Lee Myung was shocked. Despite how much the medical field has changed, he expected to stay hospitalized for several weeks due to muscle or bone damage. What shit? He was attacked by the Murim warrior in old clothes. But according to the doctor's words, he wasn't just used as a human shield, but the man made sure that Lee Myung received as little damage as possible. Is this really possible? It was such an amazing ability that was unbelievable for even a Murim warrior to have. And then the emergency room phone rang. Beep. 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 The nurse near the desk moved. "Yes. This is the ER." Maybe it was a direct line inside the hospital. ER. The nurse, who had been listening to the call with a serious expression, spoke. "Sir, 10 emergency patients from public security are being escorted in." At those words, Lee Myung and the other mobile striker turned towards the nurse. The surgeon frowned as he asked, "More from public security?" Within an hour, patients from public security kept coming in. And this time, the number was 10. This meant that a team was injured. The mobile striker cautiously asked the nurse who answered the call. "Do you know which unit is coming?" "I remember it being the second mobile strike team." "I don't think there's much time difference, co-workers?" "Yes?" At the nurse's words, Lee Myon was shocked. The news was a shock to these two, who thought that the Murim warrior was successfully caught. What the hell happened? 8:30 in the evening. A black sedan headed towards the Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. A middle-aged bearded man sat with his legs crossed in the back seat of the car. He was Ho Il-kyung, the deputy director of the Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. He's someone who could be called the second in command. But on the way to the Public Security Bureau, he was constantly complaining. "I don't get it. How can a person be so stupid? It's clear that I have an important appointment today. I need to be flexible enough to do my own work, but those who work below me need my presence. What is he saying, and what is he doing? Working? Is staying with a young woman over your lovely wife at home called working?" This guy is the Deputy Director of Public Security. TCH. The driver thought to himself. As a salaried worker, he couldn't voice his true feelings. Rather, he smiled and said, "That's right. Deputy Director, it must be horrible going to work at this time." The driver's job would only stay if he knew his place. But the man had a temper. With a weird smile, Deputy Director Ho Il-kyung responded, "Are you stupid? How could they call in someone who just left work? It's because of those bastards that men like you are able to keep their bloody driver jobs. This dog. How should I match his flow?" In an instant, the driver swore. Finally, they managed to arrive at the office. Shenyang City Public Security Bureau. The bureau had 3 buildings. On the left was the Transportation Department. In the middle was the Public Security, made up of powerful teams and various departments. And the building on the right was where the Special Ability Division and Mobile Strike teams were deployed from. Tack. Maybe they were waiting in advance. A man in his early 40s in front of the building came down the stairs. It was Song Wei-kong, the head of the Violent Crimes Division. Looking through the glass, Ho Il-kyung mumbled, "This isn't some simple greeting. TCH. If he passed the examination, which will be held in a while, he could get promoted to director. Unless something happened. Click. Respect." Perhaps it was a familiar act. Sun Wei-kong, the head of the Violent Crimes, opened the back seat door and saluted. As soon as he got out of the car, Ho Il-kyung's face changed. "Right. What kind of a madman brought us all together?" he asked with a smile. As soon as the door was closed, the driver stuck out his tongue and raised his middle finger. While riding the elevator going down to the 5th basement of the Public Security Bureau, Song Wei-kong gave a rough report. To that, Ho Il-kyung asked, "What? What the hell is that? You're saying that he threw 10 people, including the team leader who were in the task force bus?" According to the surgeon in charge of the emergency room, the regenerative treatment is possible with surgery to the fractured bones, so it might take 3 weeks. Ha! The year 2047 had a breakthrough in treatments. A regenerative treatment developed in Germany, a technology that accelerated recovery on a cell-by-cell basis. It was a popularized technology. Internal and external injuries could be healed in a fortnight, unless it was some genetic disease. And they let go of such a man who was capable of doing that. The man shook his head and spoke. Because he was a Murim warrior, they couldn't even touch him. Even if they wanted to, 2 team leaders and 1 unit got injured. Song Wei-kong had witnessed it. For the Murim man to wave his hand and make people fly. No one could touch him. Maybe the team is made up of idiots. TCH. Call that special task force. The 5th Special Mobile Strike Unit. It's a Murim warrior, so they should deal with it. Deputy Director. That team was put near the wall by the city's northern outskirts because of the drug-dealing site of a Murim organization, which was... As if he only remembered then, Ho Il-kyung rubbed his forehead with his hands. Ha ha. Yes. Was that happening at 4 p.m.? Shouldn't they have sorted it out by now and come back? I was on the radio, but they are still arresting the criminals and returning. Then, the deputy director smiled. The media had been making a lot of noise about the drugs, calling it some significant achievement. Nice. That's a good thing. It would have been really good if their plan wasn't happening now. With a stiff expression, the deputy director asked, "Where the hell did that crazy bastard come from? What the hell is going on?" That... What? Spill it. We couldn't confirm his affiliation because his identity wasn't registered. Deputy Director Ho Il-kyung frowned at the words of Song Wei-kang. Unregistered? During his time as Deputy Director, he never once came across an unregistered Murim warrior. He did hear from time to time that such things happened in other cities, but it never happened under his jurisdiction. He hasn't said anything? He has exercised his right to remain silent ever since he came here. Ha! Even dogs and cows are being given the right to remain silent. That man is supposed to have fallen from a fairly high place, but isn't something suspicious? Is it related to them? He wasn't referring to any group which committed crimes like the forces of evil. Among the Murim organizations, there was quite a large organization working. It was tough to touch their bases, even for the Public Security Bureau. This is getting worse and worse. Anyway, the guy was brought in, but they didn't know anything, not even his name. At first, we ran a fingerprint search and an iris recognition scan, but nothing matched. Finally, we called for a blood test. We called Dr. Cho from the medical side. The interrogation room has been prepared for the test and questioning just before the deputy director arrived. TCH, let's go there and see. They headed for the interrogation room after talking in front of the elevator on the 5th basement floor. The place where the man was kept was the 4th interrogation room. They entered the room, which was next to the interrogation room. Salute. Inside, a short-haired woman and a large man got up and saluted. They were detectives belonging to the 3rd team of the Violent Crimes Division. Quiet. Deputy Director Ho Il-kyung raised his finger to his mouth and made a gesture for them to stay silent. This was a room connected to the interrogation room. It was an observation room which no one could see into, as it had specially treated glass. The ones in this room could see the interrogation room, but not the other way around. There was only one table in the interrogation room, and a young man with long hair and a pure white face was seated at it. He was Chun YeoWoon. I'm only going to draw a little blood for identification. No harm is being done. The voice inside the room could be heard through the speaker in the observation room. In the interrogation room, Cho Se-jong, a public security medical team member, held a blood sampling syringe and tried persuading Chun YeoWoon. Is he the one? Yes. He really looks like someone out of a historical drama. Did you at least retrieve his weapon? We apologize. Despite what he wore, it pissed off the deputy director that his weapon couldn't be taken away. Ho Il-kyung approached the glass and took a look. Startled. Chun YeoWoon, who had been sitting still, suddenly looked at him. All that Chun YeoWoon could see was the mirror, so how could he look exactly where this man was standing? He asked Song Wei-kang, who was behind him. He can't see us, right? It wouldn't be possible even if he tried. The glass was like a mirror inside the interrogation room. Maybe I was mistaken? Chun YeoWoon looked back at Cho Se-jong. Ho Il-kyung thought that it was a coincidence and looked at him again. Is the blood not drawn yet? We tried to, but he keeps thinking we are trying to harm him, answered the female detective behind him. Suddenly, Chun YeoWoon held out his arm and said, "Try taking it if you can." Hearing those words from the speaker, Ho Il-kyung shook his head. Is that man mental? Cho Se-jong of the medical unit sighed in the room and picked up the syringe. Then, a rubber tube was wrapped around Chun YeoWoon's right wrist. Relax your arm. It will sting a little. Cho Se-jong tried to insert the needle into Chun YeoWoon's vein. However, crack. Instead of piercing the flesh, the syringe needle broke. Cho Se-jong, who was pretty experienced, wasn't the kind to make mistakes. He changed the needle. Then he asked Chun YeoWoon, "You can't flex your arm. Relax." "I didn't do that." Phew, understood. "Anyway, don't flex. Your veins will hurt." Cho Se-jong checked if Chun YeoWoon was clenching his fist or not. After confirming that he wasn't, he once again moved the needle towards the vein. Crack. When the needle broke, Se-jong realized that it wasn't a mistake. The needle broke as if it hit a strong object. Whose flesh is this hard? The needle can go in as long as it stabs the right place, no matter how thick and strong the muscles are. Se-jong, who realized that, tried to replace the needle. Clench. Hook. What's this? Chun YeoWoon grabbed the man's arm. In a low voice, he spoke to the one who was bewildered. "Isn't it enough that I gave you 2 chances? Ugh. Let me go." With pain and fear that his wrist would break, Se-jong screamed. That was the signal for the detectives in the observation room to come and help. Damn it! The 2 detectives in the other room panicked and tried to run. However, looking through the glass, as if he could see who was all there, Chun YeoWoon spoke. "Try doing something useless, and I break this man's wrist." The faces of the detectives in the observation room went stiff. They felt like Chun YeoWoon was looking at them but discarded it as some coincidence. Tack! Chun YeoWoon got up from his seat. Ouch! My hand! Se-jong complained as he was in pain, but it was ignored by Chun YeoWoon, who moved closer to the glass while dragging the man. The place he went was where the deputy director was standing. He was looking more precisely than before, making the deputy director turn as stiff as a stone. Chun YeoWoon said, "You seem to be in a higher position than the others." Gasp! Ho Il-kyung, who was frightened by the voice he heard through the speakers, unknowingly took a step back.